Welcome back to Psych Snippets. I'm Dr. Brittany Hayden.
And I'm Dr. Sally Richards.
And today we want to talk about something that is coming up right around the corner, and that's the beginning of the school year.
With this upcoming school year and it looking different than any other start of any other school year we've ever had, there's a multitude of things to consider, and it can get pretty overwhelming. For example, you might in your district have an option about returning to school or doing some virtual learning or maybe having some online cyber schooling, but some folks might not have an option at all because their school district is only offering one option. So handling and dealing with what is available is a process in and of itself. And so considering that it doesn't really seem like there is an ideal solution at all, no matter what, because the ideal solution would be no COVID and things function as normal, as we call it. And that's not an option right now. So if you're having frustration or you're struggling with accepting the variables as they are, have no fear, that's normal. But we thought that we could go over some ways that might help you manage navigating this process and also might help you with how you're feeling about it.
So we have a couple of resources that we want to highlight for you today. First off, we have a colleague, Stacy Rocco, who's a school psychologist in Oil City, PA, who has created this amazing resource giving parents tips on going back to school. We also are going to highlight the CDC's website, which is actually, it covers a number of topics. It gives you checklists on how to plan for going back to school, as well as checklists for how to plan for going back to school virtually. There are frequently asked questions and tips, and even tips for educators. Emily will include the links on our website.
One of the first things that Stacy points out that I really, really love is how important it is as parents to be, a good role model for your children. And what she's referring to is how parents are responding to their own frustrations, their own uncertainties, their own opinions about going back to school, what their school district is doing. And Stacy recommends, being very mindful about our own reactions in front of our kids, because kids follow suit. And so if we're being negative or we're being, overly vocal about our very negative opinions about things, that's going to affect how they feel. That's going to affect their attitude as they're returning to school. And yes, this is hard, but as parents, we would encourage you to, find an outlet that's not in front of your children to voice your concerns and your frustrations and your difficulties, because you do need to do that. Just be mindful of who you're doing that with or in front of.
Yeah, that's a good point, Sally. I think that it sounds simple, but having a good attitude is going to help your kiddos have a good attitude.
Absolutely.
Too. But if you're struggling with that, I think that I would kind of point you back to some of our previous videos on self-care. Like Sally said, these are really uncertain times, so you need to also be taking care of yourself too. Get plenty of sleep, eat, exercise, avoid substances. Those kind of things that we've talked about in the past on how to take care of yourself are going to help you manage these stressful times.
And don't forget that self-care also includes, aside from those basic things that Brittany was talking about, self-care also includes the things that bring us joy or the things that lighten our mood. So try to find some ways to do that. You're going to also be modeling that for your children to be engaging in their own self-care, which is also important.
Right. So the CDC resource mentions the importance of talking with your kids, preparing your kiddos for how school's going to look different this year. You want to mention things like physical distancing and why their classrooms might look a little different and why their teachers are wearing masks, why they're going to need to wear masks. So I think there are those conversations that need to happen before school starts so that it doesn't feel too scary or anxiety provoking when kids go back.
And I'd also encourage parents, as your children are getting into the swing of things with school, to check in with them regularly about how they're feeling, how school's going, and validate how they're feeling, because whatever they're feeling is how they're feeling, and we got to wait and see what it is.
And building off of what Sally said, I think one of the things that parents need to be mindful of is anticipating some behavioral changes in your kiddos. They're going to have reactions to this new way of doing things. So I think managing your own reactions to those behavior changes, it could prevent a lot of significant behavioral problems or more intensive issues related to anxiety. So one of the ways that you can kind of keep an eye out for that is looking for excessive tantrums, or are you noticing an increase in aggression, or are they more emotional, or are you seeing some separation anxiety, things like that. Maybe they're struggling with sleep, or their appetite is reduced. So those are some of the kind of warning signs that your child might be struggling a little bit more than anticipated.
You might also see your children be more irritable, kind of more snappy, give you more attitude. Sometimes your children might, when they're usually social, they might be withdrawing and spending more time alone. It's good to check on those things. If you're noticing a difference in your kid and you know them best, ask them about it, talk to them about how they're feeling, and validate how they're feeling.
It's important to keep in mind, if you notice that you and your family are really struggling and it's getting hard to do the tasks that you have to do each day, and it's getting hard for your kids to go to school each day or to deal with the frustrations of remote learning, then it's okay to ask for help. A lot of us are relying on each other for help. So make sure, if you need some additional support, that you can reach out and there are services available to you.
You can always talk to your school district. There may be some supports in place, some mental health services in place at your child's school. So talk to your school personnel. There's also a multitude of community resources, no matter where you are, a lot of virtual, but also in person, as needed, services are being offered. So please, it's not just okay to ask for help, it's encouraged to reach out.
Thank you for joining us for another Psych Snippets, and please take care of yourselves and each other.
Stay safe.